Hello and welcome to today's Wild Hearthstone deck tech and gameplay video on Cheat Paladin. Now, Cheat Paladin is an update to an older list that I have already made, where basically we want to use as many ways as we can to get creatures on the board ahead of the curve. For example, Commencement I think is the first effect that Paladin ever got that does something like this. But we've had new cards like Kangor, which was in the last video, in the last version of this video, as another way to, say, cheat minions out a little early. I also got my hands on some Prismatic Lenses, which are not new cards with the new Whizbang expansion, but this is just a new card for me, as I actually had enough, as you can see, spare dust to make it, which is just basically, in this instance, is another way to reduce the cost of really big creatures and get them into play ahead of the curve. Also have the new card Pipsy Painthoof, which is really what made me want to make this particular list, is just another instance and tool in a way that we can get an additional load of creatures cheated onto the board ahead of when you would normally be able to do otherwise. And besides the methods by which to cheat, we have the cards and stuff that you're wanting to cheat: Stoneborn Generals, Neptulons, Annoyal Troops, and the new Ziliax, which is a nice little, like, high-end threat that you can sort of cheat into play. But again, this isn't strictly necessary. If you don't have this, just run another really big creature that you particularly enjoy. And the last bit of the list is cards to keep us alive until that point. All of these low-cost spells, like Feast and Famine, Air Raid, and even Cold Feet to a degree, are all meant to be, are meant to do two things. One is, like we just talked about, in just keeping us alive, since the earliest that this deck can cheat things into play is turn 5 without a coin, and of course turn 4 with a coin. But beyond their ability to just generally buy me time, we also have, we also need to have enough low-cost spells that when we actually use Prismatic Lens, we can pretty reliably swap the cost of any of our minions to all of our spells, which the cheapest of which, I guess, is the other Prismatic Lens. But beyond that, more often than not, you're going to be replacing, say, a 10-mana card or a 9-mana card, and make its cost like a 2-mana cost or even a 1-mana cost. And the worst-case scenario, I mean, sometimes you'll swap it into a Prismatic Lens, which is, even then, 4 mana is still a cheat effect in Hearthstone, which are kind of rare. Now, before we go, I would like to make one thing relatively clear. I was in the process of, well, actually, we'll hover on Pipsy here to prove my point. I was in the process of testing another new deck out before the expansion released, and which I forgot about the year rotating. So what was in the core set sort of what was in the core set that rotated out messed up the deck that I was testing at the time. Also, the deck wasn't really even that good, so you're not missing anything. So when the Whizbang expansion came out, I had 3 days, 2-3 days to test with this to test a new list to keep my weekly upload schedule at the same time. So Cheat Paladin was a good example of cards that of a deck that both got new cards from the Whizbang expansion, and I already knew enough about the core of the list that from previous versions of this list and previous videos that we were able to squeeze out the video in time to sort of like capitalize on it. But if it does matter, while I have played like an absolute shit ton of games over these last 3 days, I haven't technically spent like the 2 weeks I would normally spend with the list, though I did try and emulate the amount of just raw games played. But just keep that in mind in case you were wanting a deck with like loads of experience over time. The expansion just hasn't been out long enough for that to happen. I maintain that this deck is very good and very fun, and only got better from previous versions, having new effects, both brand new effects like Pipsy, and me being able to get Prismatic Lens just gave us more cheat tools and just added more and more consistency to the deck, as well as just, generally good cards to cheat into. Anywho, with that out of the way, I do apologize for the longer than normal deck intro, but I did want to be as transparent as I could on moments like this, since I believe a little more transparency is generally a good thing. Anywho, with that out of the way, don't forget to like the video if you like it, subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future, and if you have any sort of questions like, I don't have X, what about Y? Honestly, this list is not budget friendly. There are loads of legendaries that are very much required. If nothing else, Kangorn and even Ametis, which can also sort of be a cheat tool. Even Pipsy is legendary. It's honestly like not a very budget friendly list. The only options where I think you could like make budget changes is in what you cheat into play, since those can be of lower quality and be like kind of okay. But other than that, like the core of the deck is very unbudget friendly, and I do apologize, but you know, sometimes that's just the way of things. Anywho, on to game number 1. And game number 1 with our little cheat paladin. For the most part, I imagine that our opponent is not going to be the most aggressive list. So we can be like, oh, well, okay. I didn't want to get another Annoyo troop. But we can be a little more ambitious with our keeps here. If it was like the, go ahead and pass. I don't know if this will come up in this particular video, since I don't really plan out what games I'm going to keep. But for the most part, you ideally want one of the many ways in the deck that you have access to, or the ability to cheat things out with in your opening hand. The exception to this will be like that new, I don't know if it's new, but new to me, that Mech Rogue that's floating around. You really want to have like more of your control tools and just hope to eventually turn the corner. Anywho, Hero Power Pass. I don't know what our opponent is running, but I suppose we shall see. Okay. I mean, that's nice. Sure. Do I get rid of the Trick Totem? Nah, we'll go ahead. We'll just Feast and Famine, getting rid of the Naga and Hero Power. I acknowledge that this could go absolutely sideways, and I could, like, just have bad luck and get, like, they might get, like, the best perfect spells, but it can also go wrong. So I'm going to try and be glass half full here and hope they get bad ones. So it's just, yeah, some sort of, like, spell mage thing? Okay. Yay! I don't want to, but I think I do actually have to kill this now, since it's basically free. Use 1/2 of an air raid and another hero power. Now, we have not drawn any of our cheating tools, but our opponent's deck appears to be slow enough and a little more, like, grindy, value-y, mid-range kind of thing, that we don't... I say we don't need to cheat on creatures, though we would still like to, in an ideal circumstance. This is a very bad one. Yeah, this is not going great. And this is... how do I word this? And this will happen from time to time, of course, one, by the RNG nature of card games, but two, you know, sometimes you just won't draw your cheating mechanics. And that's okay. If you're going against slower matchups, you can just play your creatures as, you know, big, scary, goofy creatures. Now, it might not be the most exciting thing in the world, and it does feel great on, like, turn 6 to have a full board of, like, Neptulons and some, like, Templar Captains or whatever the hell. Like, you can get some very goofy boards early on, and it is a lot of fun, if we're gonna keep it a buck. I guess we'll do Cold Feet. I don't know if things gonna matter. It's definitely not gonna matter now that they countered it. I guess we just set up, like, a good Carriel board sweep kind of thing. Since our life total is, you know, pretty high. It's not Good. That's less good. I can play a Metis and make everything 2/2s, which is something. You don't love that, though, but I think we're at a point where, unless we draw... Oh, right, we can't. I can lay down the law. Another new, like, really lovely control tool. So yeah, we will just get rid of Titan Boy. And just, yeah, largely, in this case, keep our plan the same. We've managed to, like, sculpt the board that's going to get really wrecked by our Lightforged Cariel Consecrate effect, which is pretty nice. I don't think we just die. Okay, our opponent, I love our opponent's deck. They are very committed to, like, the RNG bit of it, which this is awesome. Like, I love people who are, like, aren't, you know, running... Meh. Okay, that's gonna be alive, which isn't great. But anywho, my point was that I do love when people try stuff. Like, even if it's not great, like, I'd prefer my meta and my experience to be a lot more people trying and experimenting with things than people just running, like, generically good decks. I understand why people do, more just making a general statement. And yeah, it's Cariel all day. To do anything else would, like, almost certainly get us killed. And there's a real chance we die anyway. Maybe we do a Templar Captain. Depends on what we draw, though. You start your deck, cost 4 less, but not less than... I mean, that's cool. Okay, they're starting to hurt now. In that case, we might do a Metis or whatever and, like, make their board small. And just start trading in. That's a really good hit. I love our opponent's deck, though. This is awesome. Yeah, I want to do, like, goofy, cute stuff. Oh, I can city tax and get rid of the Medi or whatever that... Oh, hang on. Don't do that, Max. Set their cost down low. Then we city tax. Get rid of the life-stealing one. I mean, not doing bad. If it could kill our Titan next turn, but I'm probably just gonna reinforce and, like, draw hopefully some good minions. Now, if that'll work, I love our opponent's deck. Hell yeah! Ugh, oh my god, that's weirdly good. Don't you want to attack with the other ones first and get a whole board? Isn't that, like, the bit? Because you're only well... Okay, I mean, never mind. They're doing just fine. They don't need my help. Okay, that sucks. Okay, that does change how things are going to happen. It's kind of boring. Hit you, hit you. Yeah, it's not exciting, but we are just gonna Neptulon and try and clear. Getting rid of the biggest stuff. Now we really don't want to mess with the Trick Totem, as it just isn't damage. Though we do desperately need some of our, like, our lifesteal creatures, like our new Ziliacs. Be lovely to get that. Okay. That's fine. This is really going bad. Okay, what are we doing? Stoneborn. I think I need to do the... If our opponent has a counter spell, then we accept that life sucks. Yeah. That was gonna kind of happen. In that case, start trading. With our creatures, we are so low on health, we don't really have the option to start trading with our face. We don't have to. We probably still just die. Yeah. I love our opponent's deck. I'm happy to lose to this. And again, you know, sometimes you don't draw your cheating tools, and you just lose. Though, I'm gonna keep beating this horse. When I lose to like interesting decks like our opponents, I am happy. I'm more than happy to just find people, you know, trying stuff out. Try some stuff out. Try new builds. Have some fun. Life's too short. Anywho, on to game number 2. And game number 2 with our little... That's the first time I've seen the King Crush portrait. Looks nice. Okay, they're aggressive decks. Our Hunter is on average aggressive, so I'm gonna, again, look for some cheating tools. And Cariel's a nice way to sort of, as we saw in the last game, to like swing back boards that sort of get away from us. I like this. I like it. It's not bad. Am I crazy? It's been a long time since I played WoW Classic, especially since like the vanilla thing was around. So it's been a long time since I've ever needed to hunt for Devil Sore leather. But I'm almost certain that King Crush is like, isn't he one of those like big red and black ones? Nah, I'd never spent much time on Agoro. I could be wrong. Hero power and pass. And our... Ever since Renathal rotated out and we've got reverted Renathal, a lot of people are running it, which is like fine. I understand it might have been a problem in Standard, but as for Wild, even when it got the original nerf, it was not that... Ooh, that's nice. It largely didn't kind of affect Wild, so it reverting back to where it was is also not that bad. It's fine. That is a perfectly fine play here. So we can do Amitis and reinforce it, or do the reinforced ability. Do we care? Yeah, I think our plan remains the same. We will go ahead and do reinforced, draw some stuff. Man, both of those are fine, honestly. In that case, we will do the Stoneborn General into it. And then we'll just do a Feast and Famine. Since right now we value the 8/8 more. And this is a good example of like being able to cheat a really scary board out on turn 5. I mean, it's not technically the best, but it's like about as good as one can realistically expect to get in most games. I'll do another Stoneborn General. Why not? Put you over here, away from the... yeah, I do have to double trade, weirdly. No, I don't. No, I don't. I can just empower my minions. Trade my... that's not trade. Hit my dudes in it. Yeah, my brain's totally borked. I think I could have done that play totally differently. I know I could have played the hero power and then did the buff. So I know I messed up on that front. I also might have been able to, like, keep the general alive. Yeah, I goofed that a whole lot. But the perks of a list like this is that we're kind of okay and don't care. I don't think I really need to... There we go. I was about to say, I'm not going to bother to reduce its stats. That was honestly really good. What was that, turn, I think, what, 7? And we have an absolutely fucking ridiculous board out? That was pretty good. And that's a good showing of what the deck is on, like, when I say a majority, I do mean a slim majority, like, you know, 6-7 games out of 10. But that's pretty common. With all of the new cards that we've gotten, or with the new card in Pipsy, as well as if you can afford Prismatic Lens, there are like a really good density of like ways to cheat minions out, and this kind of a game and this kind of an explosive board state is not uncommon. Like, it's pretty, you know, I was gonna say it's pretty common, but no shit, that's what that means. But yeah, like, this is, you know, it's fun, and it happens a lot. So this should be a good example of, like, what the deck can be. Although, since this game was shorter, we will go on, and we were probably going to anyway, go on to a game number 3. And game number 3 with our little cheat palette. It's not bad. We will go ahead and throw back the big things. We have an okay hand for dealing with the likely aggressive, Demon Hunter deck that our opponent's going to be running. We didn't draw one of our cheating tools, but this is another one of those instances where it's better to be alive kind of thing, where normally you might not have that option. And I guess we'll start trading away some cards here to start digging. That's okay. I mean, it's fine. We'll take that. Our opponent isn't doing a whole lot, it has to be said. Okay, Kangorn's pretty good. In that case, I think we'll do an air raid. Just get a big, you know, as big a board as we can. Any damage we don't have to take is nice. Okay, that's fine. So we now know where our opponent is in a Demon Hunter. It's not like some weird rogue list, even though that one card doesn't see play anymore, but it's neither here nor there. Yeah, I think we just air raid again. We're going to save our coin for Kangor next turn. Now, whether it dies or not, who knows? It's a possibility that they could be... Because this might be like a newer player with their totally not sketchy name of just smashing your keyboard. But they could have, as a newer player, my whole point was going to be that they could have like that consume magic thing and they could silence Kangorn, which would suck. It's still the right play, but we shall see. And luckily, our opponent's board is big enough that, like, we can just trade in. If, you know, if we want to. And we probably will. Warblades. I mean, even if you trade in, we're still kind of okay with that. Hell yeah. That's a questionable call, but sure. I think we will do a Feast and Famine to get rid of the Quillbore here. Just hit with a big old 8/8. Part of me wants to do the Prismatic Lens, but I'd rather actually keep the Captain alive, so I think we're going to do another air raid. I mean, we'll see if it stays alive, but that's my initial logic. Because we are, if they don't, we're just going to bonk them in the head for 8 again. See what they do. They are life-stealing some. Illidari Studies, I-Beam. Do you have another one? Not bad. That was a lot of cards to get rid of that, though. Which is like yeah, it's fine. Doing good. Yeah, we'll go ahead and play a Prismatic Lens. Since odds are we'll be able to play whatever creature we cheat into. Brand new Ziliax. You will be seeing this in a couple of lists. Not only in another cheat version of a warrior list I have, but as a little sneak peek of the next Hearthstone video. I do have my next planned deck is the Quest Warlock, where you deal like self-damage. And there's a version of Ziliax that like works pretty well in that list. Honestly, we'll just play the Pipsy. Just go face. And now that we actually don't have stealth anymore, they have to hit into us. And Ziliax, or this particular version of Ziliax, is like a big scary boy. Yeah, we're cool with that. Go ahead and trade in, kill your guy. They can, yeah, just, well, they say they in theory could, but when it's resummoned, it does regain stealth. yeah, we're in a really good spot. In that case, just air raid. Start hitting with a cavalry horn. Another way to cheat out things. And odds are we've got them. I don't see a whole lot they do. I mean, even if they have like a, I think it's Chaos Nova, that's like 4 damage to everything. They would have to gain a good amount of life, which is possible for Demon Hunter, but I don't think that's what's happening here. They're drawing cards. They are digging, which is the appropriate thing. I think I still have my Outcast Demon Hunter list floating around as a reminder of a thing I might need to do later. But yeah, that's a pretty good showing for the list. I'm a little concerned that that might have been like a newer player. Again, not sketchy name. That's not... But whatever. I feel there's a little part of me that feels kind of bad. That might have just stomped a new player with a deck that has a load of really expensive cards in it. But I mean, what are you gonna do? Sometimes you're gonna have wins like that, and even then, it does still do a good job of showing off what the deck wants to do. And that is basically what Cheat Paladin is. This deck has gotten way, way better now, and is honestly really good. Now, the only other cheat list that sort of sometimes sees play is a Big Shaman. Do I think it's as good as Big Shaman? We'll say as good as. Do I think it's better or worse? I haven't done testing with the Big Shaman I haven't done testing with a Big Shaman list recently. There we go. Got there eventually. But it feels pretty equal on its power level and its ability to cheat things out early. Though, if memory serves me correctly, Shaman can do it on turn 4, where Paladin can do it on turn 5. Though I think Paladin has more ways to cheat things out, so you trade consistency for more tempo, where Shaman gets more tempo but less consistency. Anywho, I think it's very, very fun. If you like decks like Big Shaman and you're looking for another version of that in a different class, this is a really, really good way to do it, and I would wholly, wholly recommend it, and I will almost guarantee revisit this list in the future if we get new cheating tools or new really big scary things to cheat into play. Those can also sometimes trigger a redo of a video, basically, or a revisit of a video. So thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future. And if you have any sort of questions about, say, budget replacements or just generally nice or somewhat positive or constructive comments, I'll do what I can to respond to what I see. Thank you all for watching. Be kind out there and just, play games and have some fun. Life's too short, man. Bye-bye.